Welcome to Archangel Revelations and Prophecies 444. I am Gat, your host. A viewer asks for their natal chart to be analyzed. It's going to be a thorough analysis on all questions, whether soulmate, twin flame, life purpose, why we're here, as well. Now, the first house, as you can see, is in Pisces. The AC is the ascendant and rising sign. The EP is the east point. The AC is when the sun was going over the horizon when she was born. The EP is when the sun was going over the ecliptic when she was born. This is all going on in the first house, which is ruled by Aries. So she's going to be somewhat of a Pisces person. Your first house is how the world sees you or how you reveal yourself to the world. But basically, a 12th house person. And if you notice in her 12th house, she has love, Venus, at 26 degrees. Very interesting. And you see Aquarius as well, but her love is going to kind of be connected to some form of spirituality. So for her, the love is going to be kind of spiritual. And also, she's still a 12th house person. So what happens with Venus and Pisces, and Pisces rules the 12th house. This could kind of be like a fantasy type love. She has to be very careful of the fantasy type love, and she has to be very careful because sometimes they love unconditionally, and that's fine if somebody's loving you unconditionally. But a lot of times that's not the case. So a lot of times people fall in love with unconditionally with somebody that's not doing the same for them. So you got to watch being used and being hurt, because in the 12th house, again, it is about sacrifice. It is about martyrdom. So you may even get sacrifice as far as sacrificing yourself and things for someone who really wouldn't do the same for you. And you can already see Aquarius. This may have something to do with Aquarius or not. But let's stay back in the first house. So Pisces rules the 12th house, all about inspiration, service. But the 12th house is also about cleaning the closet out, cleaning anything hidden under the walls, facing fears, getting even like anything going on in your subconscious mind, bringing it all out. Not just in the 12th house or not just with Pisces, but always people should keep a journal with them. Even if they have a journal by their bed and a journal they carry with them for inspirations, dreams, things that come up. Because again, Pisces is ruled by the 12th, is ruled by Neptune. And Neptune is known as being a deceiver. This is where you get religious beliefs that are not necessarily true, but they're pushed on the masses anyway. So you have a lot of people believing a lot of stuff that's not necessarily true. And again, same thing can happen in love, because people can see something a certain way. Oh, so and so loves me, we're going to get married, but that person may not be thinking about marrying you. Also, when Pisces is in the 12th house, you have to be very careful, because this is also a house of secret fantasies, secret love affairs. The 12th house is a lot like the 8th house. So a lot of secrets there, but you got to be careful because in the 12th house, again, you're supposed to be really reckoning it, coming out of it, dealing with it, so that you can get healing. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people just try to keep it under the carpet. They stay in denial. They don't want to deal with it, and that's really not beneficial for them. So let's look at Saturn, because Saturn is going to be karmic, and then this is where you might see delays in your life, because Saturn comes with the karma, and Saturn comes with lessons as well. Give me a moment, I will be with you shortly. So again, it deals with you learning your lessons in this lifetime. Saturn will cause time delays, but it still is positioning itself as a teacher. And he may even bring trouble if a person is not listening. So they're saying because Saturn is in the first house, this person may be rather serious. This native may be shy, cautious, prefers stability, and they tend to focus on structure. But again, nothing wrong with that. But my point being made is when you have that kind of fantasy thing going on that I talked about, you have to be careful because people do that. You know, they'll say, "Oh, you know, I want to be married by him, whatever. I want this," and they go and they'll meet somebody, and immediately, you know, they'll pick that person to help fulfill this dream they have. But they've never really talked with the person. They really don't even really know the person. You understand? Just like they just want this dream, kind of like you might be looking for work, part-time work, whatever. You want to make a little bit of money, just part-time work, not too serious. But you might come into a restaurant where this person like, listen, I'm gonna blow this place up. I'm gonna become one of the biggest places in my state. But and they got this big dream, this big vision, and they're looking at you like, yeah, this will work out great. This guy will come in, and they're planning all this stuff that you're gonna do, and then come to find out, you know, you really don't see the same vision and you could care less about anything that person's talking about. You just want to come in, do your time, get your money, get the heck out of there. And sometimes I've seen fathers that have pizza places and stuff, but their son wants nothing to do with the business. So you really got to know what you're talking about so that you don't put yourself in a fantasy world or set yourself up for a fall. So people like this may have been pushed to grow up like adults too early. Like when they were young, they were already being pushed to grow up and think like an adult. So these people may have a strong self-discipline and they feel utterly responsible. These people also can become guilty for things that they have no control over, but it's because they're very responsible people. In their young years, they may have even been depressed because of reasons like this. When they were younger, they may not have received a lot of love in their surroundings. And the fact the elders around them may not have encouraged it. People with Saturn in the first house are taught to be limited, not to express themselves openly, and because of this, they may have low self-confidence their whole life. And again, that goes back to what we're saying about the 12th house. So then that type of person will have a fantasy love in their mind, and they'll want that person to fulfill that. And a lot of times, these type of people get manipulated because somebody knows that. You know, whether it's a guy or another female, but they kind of sense it. So they just become that person, but they're just bullshitting. So they'll become your superhero until they get whatever they want from you, and then at some point they're gonna just play you out. And that's why you have to be somewhat cautious. But I always tell people, slow it down. For some reason, we're just in such a rush. As soon as we meet somebody, we want to start having sex with them, or we want to start spending a whole lot of time with them. And sometimes it's just better kind of slow it down. Like if you're going on dates, try to have dates where you can also just sit and get to know each other, have a conversation. If you don't want to get hurt, like people can do whatever they want, but like I said, there's going to be repercussions for everything we do. And remember, what she's got to remember is your karmic. Saturn is going to bring the karma. So their parents may have taught the person who requested this will be called the native. Their parents may have transferred them to ideas of systematic work, goals, achievements, and the parents may also have been a little harsh or even critical. So the child might have grown up feeling like I'm an ugly duckling. All right, now I don't know if this is true or not, but this person is saying this is give me one moment. This website is astrocodex.com, because they're saying that Saturn in the first house does not grant beauty to the native's body, which furthermore has an impact on the general confidence of the individual. Now, I don't know nothing about that, but again, there's many different ways to look at that. But the bottom line is, people can still do whatever. They can stay healthy or whatever the case might be. See, one thing I try to encourage people to do is don't sit there and beat yourself up, because it's not doing any good. And I learned a long time ago that whether you had great parents or your parents had a little shortcomings or whatever, you got to go up and to be you. That's the whole point of turning 18 and becoming an adult. You got to grow up to be you. You can't live your whole life because of the mistakes of your parents. And a lot of people make that mistake. So they say Saturn in the first house tends to give a short body, and any difficult aspects from other planets can create various problems in the native's appearance and body functions. Nevertheless, natives with Saturn in the first house can endure long in life and even reach deep old ages, and death tends to forget them, and they just literally shrink in size. Their family and parents are usually very conservative, and they're often, this is what they're saying. This is not me. This is what this website is saying. Their parents and family are usually very conservative and many times religiously fanatics. So that's why I was trying to tell you. You got to remember, Neptune is a deceiver. Your ascendant is Pisces. Your ruler is Neptune. And Neptune and Pisces rule your 12th house. But you got Venus, and Venus in the 12th house will love somebody unconditionally, or all kind of crazy stuff. Like let's just say she's going to church and it's a man in that church, and let's just say he's a low life piece of shit. But you don't want to say that, because you go to church and they say, you got to be loving and forgiving, and he's still your brother, and blah blah blah. So what you're really doing is giving this man all this power over you. See, I used to do all that religious stuff, and I learned you got to call it like it is. The man's a low life piece of shit. But if you let the religion teach you, Neptune, a deceiver, and deceiver means lying or misleading. So now this guy's making moves on you, and then this man has a wife or whatever. He's making moves on you, and then he's giving you all these sad stories and all this crazy stuff. And with Venus in the 12th house, that's all fantasy love, believing he's going to leave his wife to be with me, and the secrets. All this is going on in the 12th house. And you see this a lot. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Some of the most religious people are the ones that make these mistakes. Because like I said, whether people know it or not, when you're talking, especially a religion like Christianity, divorce is usually a no-no unless it's some form of fornication or something extreme. But yet, even though these people notice, you still see them getting divorces and cheating and everything else. And some of these people, other than what I just said, they would be kind of like A+ people, like top of the crop. So the reason why people get these natal charts and the reason why God does what he does is so people can know, to be honest. Like if you were, the ancient Egyptians said, know thyself. Know thyself. So you got to really know this stuff. And like I said, God will send people to tell you the truth. I had somebody send me or whatever. They contacted me and they basically were saying, you know, I'm sick of this and I'm ready to get on with my life and blah. And they made it seem like, you know, I don't know what the whatever, but I'm ready to move on and blah, blah, blah. So like I said, I went by what I was told. But then as I got more and more into the study, I could see what was going on. This person had a lot of things going on that they had not addressed. And that's what I mean about karma or Saturn or whoever. Until those areas are addressed, nothing's going to change. In fact, it'll start to get worse. So you got to really be awake with this and really alert with this. And that's what I'm trying to tell. Like I said, I just see things differently. There's a female now. She was a young girl when she got arrested. Now, a lot of stuff wasn't her fault. Her own relatives was raping her and stuff. And so she was like hanging out with hustlers and thieves and things like that. So all she saw was horrible things being done to girls and women, and you know, she just saw the darkest part of life, of human nature. So she had a guy that was paying for it, and keep in mind she's underage at the time, but this is a grown man that's paying her, so he would take her to his place or whatever, and she just felt a certain way. She didn't like the way he was looking at her, and she said she just felt a certain way. And I think this girl was a little crazy as well. But she was feeling a certain way. So while that man was sleeping, he had a revolver. And while he was sleeping, she just shot him. So they locked her up. And they put her away for life. Because the guy, you know, he had served the country and all that. And then she couldn't prove that she is any type of danger. But here's the deal. At the same time, I'm not saying she definitely shouldn't have shot him. But the point is, I can understand where she's coming from because she felt a certain way. You do have intuition, and she has been raped before. So I totally understood how she felt, but what she did was shoot the man in cold blood. And he was asleep. He was laying on his stomach. So y'all might know who I'm talking about. I forget, but very beautiful, very beautiful. But when she went to prison, that's all I was. All other females was raping her and beating her up and stuff and bullying her. So she started to grow. She got really fat, and she cut all her hair and everything because she said this is what got me in trouble. She said my beauty got me in trouble and stuff like that. So they were going to keep her locked up forever. And it was Rihanna who began to say, hey, listen, let her out. You know, a lot of women have been abused by men, and you can't just lock a woman up forever. You know, you got to look at the whole picture and stuff. So Rihanna really stood up for her. And I think they did. They finally, because they still didn't want to give her a retrial. But I think they finally did give her a retrial and are eventually going to let her out. Whereas before they weren't going to let her out. And she was only like, she was only like young when they locked her up. So the reason, why am I saying all this? Now the point being made is, we do have to be conscious of certain things. Because what happens is, you know, we want to be cute, we want to be attractive, and some of us want to be sexy, whatever the case might be. But when you have this information coming to you, however it comes to you, for some people it might be a natal chart, for some people it might be a sermon, for some people they might be looking at something on YouTube. But the universe is going to tell you what's really going on. But it's up to you to see it as it really is. Because that's why I say people love to play the victim. But a lot of times it's no victim. Like you see this on your chart, you know what's going on there. But then if you fall for it anyway, you understand that then everybody wants to make a million excuses. And then a lot of these people do leave their husbands or leave their wives. Or some of these people have long time relationships. Sometimes the wife even knows. The wife even knows that the husband's screwing somebody else. And who is he screwing? Like these people like there's not going to be a judgment. So that's why when we get these readings, it has to be said. Because if somebody's not warning these people, they go on this long thing, and then when they finally do end up, time to pay the piper, and it ain't going to be no way out of that. So that's why we have to really look at, what am I doing that's helping the situation? First off, what energy am I sending out? Because the Bible says be modest. What energy am I sending out? If I'm a single woman or whatever, and some married man is really trying to be too nice to me or too friendly, hold up. You got to shut that down quick, because it's inappropriate. Like, at what point do you shut it down? When he starts touching you? What point do you shut it down? When you go out on a date with him? What point do you shut it down? Especially if he's a married man. Spiritually speaking, it shouldn't start from the beginning. And that's why I try to tell people, they don't understand. Sometimes, oh, he's an elder. Oh, he's a pastor. Oh, he's a deacon. He's a bishop. All kind of stuff. So he's still a pervert. He's a married man. Simply put. And that's why the Bible says you have to learn how to get your own drinks, your own citron, your own citron. You gotta learn how to get your own. And it's not always easy, but it can still be done when you're not in fantasy land. And then some people want Mr. or Mrs. Right. But the truth of the matter is, there is no Mr. or Mrs. Right. You gotta find out what your agenda is. Like if I wanted something long term, if I really wanted to be in a relationship and wanted it long term, I have to find a female that really wants that herself. Because a lot of people say they want it, but they don't. Like, you'll meet somebody, all they want to do is bicker and argue and just be drama queens. So that person is just too immature. That's a fact. And a lot of people say, oh, you just have to wait on a person. Eventually they'll come around. But how long do you have to wait? Especially if you're older. It can't be a whole lot of waiting when you're older. Because you might not be here too much longer. So you got to know these things before you even go in. And sometimes, like I said, you have to be a little tougher. Because believe me, when you're talking about adultery or something like that, or immorality, the kid gloves got to come off. So now they were saying that these people, her family that she came from, may have been conservative, but they may keep old traditions of modesty, creating a strict behavior shell for the native to move in. It is usually after Saturn return to its native natal position, approximately at the 29th year of the person's life. All right, so I just want to look at this really quick and see how close are we to that, or whatever the situation might be. Give me one moment, please. So that's very interesting. So I want to repeat this to make sure this is heard. But that's very interesting. Like I said, I've been doing these charts for a long time, so I can tell when a person kind of knows. Because a lot of times a person will contact me right at that moment that something's going on with their charts and stuff like that. And somehow either their guide tells them or their higher self. But I've seen this too many times. Alright, so let's go back to that Saturn return. Because they said around the time when this person is 29 years old. This person starts to become more liberal. But that's at the Saturn return. And that is a reading as well. There is a Saturn return reading. So the person wants to become more liberal, life philosophies, and starts changing their attitude. Well, I hope I help as far as things I said, because here's the deal. We can change all we want, but you don't want to change so much. Like what I'm trying to do, let's say I come from a strict background, and I say, wait a minute, I'm a grown man now. I'm going to do what I want. You know, earlier I had to listen to my parents, but now I'm going to loosen up to tie a little bit, and I'm going to let my lion raw. But you still got a higher source than your parents. So you don't want to raw too. You don't want to get too wild. You don't want to be too wild. So that's why I said even like a man going through a midlife crisis, and I think that's hilarious, because a lot of times a man is going through a midlife crisis or whatever it is, and he might get a young girl. You know, she's old. She can still be 20, but she's still young. Might only be 18, 20. But to him at first, he may think that's like the trophy. But that's not the trophy. And what happens is, after a while, because you're not 18 no more. You're not 17. You're not 18. You're not 17. You're not 19. You're not 20. So it's not gonna work. I remember on family, whatever that show that was, whatever that thing, that dude, Sega, whatever his name was. But anyway, he did that one time. He was going through a midlife crisis, and he had a real young female, and he thought it was the hottest thing, and they were looking at him like she's too young for you, and he thought it was hot, and then he started to realize, because she wanted to go to concerts, and she's young, but he couldn't really keep up and stuff. So yep, Bob Saget. He was born in Philadelphia. It's kind of funny because on my other channel I'm talking about Philadelphia a lot lately. That's kind of funny. So we just have to remember that we don't want to go wild. And like I said, the midlife crisis, like I said, again, nobody's gonna be perfect. Mistakes will be made, but the bottom line is you want to try to get focused, because anything in life you can attain, but sometimes you need focus. What are you looking for? And like again, a lot of people, the first thing we do is we judge people by appearance, or we judge people. Like I was dealing with a few clients who, they wanted the man in uniform and the security of the money coming in and all that. But a lot was coming out in readings, not just mine, because some of my clients deal with psychics and stuff like that. So they were being told, be careful, be careful. These men are not stable, and boom, boom, boom. So my point being made, sometimes you have to fall back and really see things. Like in my neighborhood, I had a next door neighbor. Now she really was a friend of my younger sister, but we all grew up together. But even when she was young, she was always different. So what happened? Females are starting to get older now, and they want to move on with their lives. And whatever happened, it wasn't really not really happening, I guess. So when she met an older man, and they got married, and I think they're still married now. So they've been married for a good period of time, maybe about 12 years or so. But but some people would say, oh, he's too old, he's too old for her or whatever. But they've been married for time. So I'm not saying you got to do that, but what I am saying, you got to figure out, what do you really want? Because so many people waste so much time on silly stuff, and they don't know what they really want. And for the most part, Um, you just don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're waiting on somebody who ain't gonna leave their wife and all that crazy stuff or whatever. Or you don't want to put yourself in a situation where if you believe in God, you don't want to be on the negative side of his grace, his mercy. You don't want to be on the angry side. So they're saying when this person turns around 29 years, when Saturn returns to where it was when this person was born, this person will start to become more liberal, be open to more philosophies, and start to change the attitude. And I've seen that. I've seen people when they were younger, they were religious. When they got older, they were atheists. But I've also seen people that were atheists when they were younger, and then when they got older, they became like religious. But now they're saying that the return of Saturn will mark a turbulent period. But they're saying that in the end, this period will liberate you as you start a new life cycle. In your new life cycle, you're going to be more interested in achieving a joy without anybody trying to stop you. So they say at this Saturn return, when a person is normally around 29 years old, childhood fears are starting to dissolve, and the native creates a new perception of themselves. The ugly duckling will transform into a totally different being. So Saturn is a planet strongly connected to karma. They're also saying that this person may have been bullied in their earlier life and things like that. So Saturn is going to bring you debts from other lives that have to be paid before the soul is allowed to set sails towards new directions. So we will be talking about that in this reading. But again, that's why I'm trying to tell you. If people do have a biblical background or a spiritual background, then you realize that almost every step you take, there is a wicked person who walks around like a lion seeking to devour you. So if you are trying to obey this God, every step you take is almost being mimicked by this evil, trying to stop it, break it up, tempt you. But you have to be aware of that. And this is, again, if you really believe that, you will watch how you do certain things. So they're saying this person, when he becomes older, they can be a mentor to other people. But you can even do that now. Because they say this person has a lot of experience since they were young. So they're saying this person might actually become some type of a teacher for the younger. And nowadays, that's what I'm trying to tell people. It might be a literal teacher in a classroom, but nowadays with the internet, many people are teaching. They're sharing their experience online and things like that. and it's helping them with a career. Because remember, Saturn rules Capricorn, which is your 10th house, so that can be career as well. Now, you may have suffered a painful birth experience, having difficulties to come out of your mother's womb. So somebody that has Saturn in the first house could be a workaholic. And the reason why they do that, because if they didn't do that, life would seem like it's melancholy, like there's no progress. Because like I said, if you're home, if you are lonely or whatever the case might be, you be that really messes with you. And then when that phone rings, because like you start to deceive yourself. Like that phone will ring and you'll just be hoping it's somebody or something or whatever. And if it's like a wrong number, you get pissed off. Or say it's your mother, you get pissed off. You just get honestly mad. So what that person might do is just work all the time because they don't want to deal with it. But again, like I said, some things you can do things about. You can go on dates if you want to. Safety comes first, of course, but again, if you did have your own whatever, like a lot of people have YouTube channels, Facebook channels, Instagram, Snapchat, Patreon, so that keeps them busy too. So they say Saturn can also give a different perception of time. But they may even feel like time is standing still. But again, the reason why time feels like it's standing still because the person doesn't have too much going on. And that's what makes it seem like life is boring, time is standing still. So they're also saying Saturn, because the house opposing your first house is the relationship house, the 7th house. So Saturn may bring delays, or they might bring an older person in your life. So they say, but what happens if this person does find somebody, the relationship may be committed and may last long, or last till at least one of them dies. So they were saying it might be a pretty good relationship if Saturn is in Capricorn, Aquarius, or Libra. Well we already saw that the 12th house where Aquarius is someone connected to the first house where Pisces is. So they're saying a native with Saturn in the first house, they have to learn what Saturn is demanding of them. Because if not, they're going to try to fight against it. And what people don't realize on planet Earth, a lot of times, when karma comes back, it doesn't always come to you. It'll come to your children. So let's say you're a female and you cheat on somebody's husband or whatever. You take her man or whatever you're doing and all that. But that may happen to your daughter or something like that. That karma comes back. See, what people have to realize, anything like church, religion, all that, it's very, very powerful. You can almost say superstitious, because you're dealing with spirits, and all that stuff is real. That's why I said I'm very careful about what I do, where I go, and all that stuff, because this is real. You're dealing with spirits, powerful spirits. So they say once you pay back your debt to Saturn, he'll become very generous, and his gifts can last a long time. So they say the best thing you can do if you have any Saturnian issues on your chart is to serve and give love to old people. Now I'm trying to tell you, that's what I did. When I was young, instead of chasing women and all that stuff, I was always out in some type of ministry, and I was always helping the elderly, visiting the elderly, babysitting, like staying there, sitting with the elderly, always. Now, I don't know if my higher self told me this or my guardian angel, but my reason for doing it, I do care about people, but it was kind of selfish. My reason was kind of selfish because I knew that when I got older, I wanted people to be there for me some type of way. And sure enough, by the blessing of God, that has happened for me. Because all I can do is what I can do, and then all the rest I just give it to God. Because a lot of people try to carry it, or you feel guilty, or people try to make you feel guilty. But you don't have nothing to feel guilty about. You're doing the best you can under your circumstances. That's all anybody can require you to do. Anybody else trying to push you on that, you got to ignore that person. Because if not, you're going to end up dead. All right. And just so you know, the 12th house is karmic also. So that's why I say be very careful that you should make that self a goal. Don't have no crush on a guy. Like, cause I don't know. The implication is she's a spiritual person or a religious person. But you might even be whatever at your church, at your congregation, and you'll see a guy that kind of has his stuff together. Look, it looks like he does. But what you don't realize is he's got faults like everybody else. It's just that he looks good in the suit, or he looks good, and you might see him with his wife. You might like the way he touches her or holds her or whatever, or you might like the kids, and you want the same thing too. But it's just easier to look at him, and that's how you go into fantasy land. And like I said, when people let you know, they will let you know. Like yesterday at work, this woman just kept walking by. I said to myself, how many times she gonna walk by? What? But people will try their best to let you kind of figure it out, or some crap like that. You got to be very careful, because the Bible says the heart is treacherous. But the whole thing is, if you know that's on your chart, you got to really have self-discipline. So don't even fantasize like that. Don't even think like that. That's why when it was the Garden of Eden, God said, don't even look at the tree. He said, that tree in the middle, don't touch it. Don't think about it. Don't taste it. Don't even look at it. And that's how they got in trouble, because everything he told them don't do, they did it anyway. All right. So Saturn in Pisces could also be, she may have some type of assignment where she actually is some form of a administrator, or she works for an administrator, but she does have a voice because of Mercury. So Mercury is communications and thought. So she may actually have some type of administrative voice in some form of inspirational or spiritual location. And that could be whatever, church, community, wherever. Saturn is at 1 degree is the it's a Gemini card. It is a magician. And Mercury rules Gemini. And then there it's 7 degrees, which is actually the Chariot card, which is Cancer energy. Now, 15 degrees can mean bondage, but that's what I'm telling you. That Pisces wants to love, but it's kind of it's not necessarily a healthy love, because it's almost like obsessive. That's what 15 is. 15 is Capricorn energy, but it's a devil card. It's about bondage. So again, you have to be very careful. Then when you go to your Vesta, again, Vesta is also about isolation and bondage. It's also about service, but in this case, once again, that's why I say some people will almost serve another person. With this type of placement, they'll almost serve another person like it's God. All right. Now, oh, at least your Vesta's in your second house. So your Vesta's not in your first house. But it's going to make your second house very fiery, because you have Aries there, so it's going to be very fiery. And Vesta's there. And Vesta really is like loyalty and service. Depending on what her placement is, she can be very sexual as well. And you got that one again. So that's why I'm trying to tell you, be very, very careful. Because see that Saturn at 1 degrees could be some type of oversight where you're at, like where you work at, where you worship at. And see, when you look at your Vesta, once again, 3 degrees, that's Venus energy again. They go to Venus again. And then at 1, it's 3 degrees in 1 minute. But you got that 1 again, which is showing you once again that same energy you see with the Saturn. And that's why I said it's just not good. Especially with because Aries will jump into things. And you got your Lilith. Your Lilith is direct, but it's at 28 degrees. But you see that 4? So that's Aries again. So I don't know if you see it, but I see it. But you got like a masculine Aries, Saturn, magician-like energy that could actually tempt you to sin or worse. And you always got to remember, no matter where you're at, that dark energy that we're talking about is going to be there too. Or that I'll say that, I won't say dark energy. I'll say that evil energy, because it's there to tempt you, test you, do anything to you to knock you off your connection to the Most High. Because if they can knock you off to the connection to the Most High, then you'll be going exactly where they're going in the end. So in the second house, what you're looking at is somebody that's ready to work, ready to do a good job, likes to make money and stuff like that. But then what they're going to do is put somebody right there to kind of like tempt you. And that's why assistants have it kind of rough. Because when you're an assistant, I'm not saying she's an assistant, but I'm saying assistants is kind of rough, because when you're an assistant, you gotta kind of be there for your oversight, whoever that person is. And that's how you kind of can get trapped up. Because you might say, I need you to work late or whatever. But all kind of stuff happens. And I'm telling you, that's not the way to go. And it's funny that they said she would start changing around the Saturn return. And look who's there, Saturn. And then anybody that knows astrology knows that Saturn is Satan. I mean, not to be afraid of it, but pretty much. So you definitely see how this really works out. Because I can see it almost if I'm there. Like, I'm there. They're in the office together, and it's just them two and stuff. And I'm like, no, don't do it. And I used to work, the same thing I used to work at a job. And the lady, like, she was my manager, but she was like that. And she was always trying to be, whatever, breasts in your face and all kind of crazy shit. But I wasn't there for all that. I was there for a job. I wanted to be paid. And I felt like I was working harder than a whole lot of people. Because I was only a temp worker. And everybody else would be leaving. Like, when 5 o'clock came, those people was out that building. I would be in there with her. I would be in there with my manager. And I was like, I'm working late. I should be getting more money. Like, I'm working. Like, nah. So I wasn't with it. And it was like, they were trying to play me out. Like, no, you just a temp. I said, well, then make me permanent. And they kept trying to play me out. So that didn't work out. But I was glad. I was like, listen, you're not getting over on me. I'll go. And I did. I walked out that building and went right across the street to their competition. And I started working with their competition. But that lady was always trying to push herself on me. And then the moment, and I was doing most of the work too. And then the moment I met all the goals and all that, then she fired me. But she fired me because she couldn't play me out. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. It doesn't and I always had a conscience. Because a lot of times at these jobs, you see these people, but you get to see their children. Sometimes a husband might come, you see him. So I'm like, nah. Plus, I have a healthy fear of God. So I'm not trying to play these games. So again, in your third house, that's pretty much a devotion there. Vesta is all about loyalty and devotion. But the way they're doing you is that they're connecting you to that masculine energy. And even number 28 is extremities. And then number 4 is Aries energy again. And remember, the Aries energy can also be the Emperor card. Number 4 is the Emperor card. So like I said, they're going to put this person with you. You're looking up to this person, and they kind of already know that. And then they're going to try to manipulate. And like I said, anybody will. That's why I said my manager tried to manipulate me because she had the power, she had the authority. She figured ain't nobody going to find out. And they were nice that me and her were like be the only ones in the building. Like it would be nobody around us. You could have did anything if you wanted to. Like if I was that type of person, it would have definitely been on. Because everybody else, like I said, as soon as 5 o'clock hit, that building cleared. It's almost like a ghost town. I remember one time it was a blizzard, and it was just me and her out there because everybody else had went home. And she was always trying to connect with me, and I never let it happen. Because I was like, I just didn't want it. It just made me mad. Like, I mean, sometimes, I guess I was just at a point in my life I was just trying to do something, you know? And it was always like obstacles. So I wasn't trying to self-destruct. I wasn't trying to destabilize myself. And I just didn't like it. I just felt like it. You know, this is so unprofessional and shit. So I really didn't like it. All right. So that's pretty much your first two houses. We will be looking at your 12th again a little bit. But you are dealing with extremities, like 28 degrees is like extremities. Aries is definitely extremities. And sometimes people become extreme because they felt so restricted. But they told you it's going to be Saturn that causes it. And the Saturn return. And that's exactly what's going on. So now what the universe did was to send me to give all this advice so that she doesn't make these decisions that can put her in a bad position with God or that she may later regret. So now in your third house, which is all about small children, publishing, the brotherhood, short distance travel, creativity, poetry, the mind and communication, and siblings. You have Taurus there, but you have to be very careful of Taurus in the third house because Taurus in the third house tends to exaggerate. And Taurus is very earthy. And Taurus is also, like I said, about finances because Taurus rules the second house of value systems, finances, money. So you don't want to get into the situation where you're not being honest, and you don't want to get into the situation that it's just about money. Fourth house is Gemini. Once again, we just told you what Gemini is, so this could still be small children. So your fourth house is about family, teenage to adult education, land, property, real estate, ancestors and family, vehicles and travel, and whoever raised you when you were young, and that will be Imon Kweli. So with Gemini in your fourth house, it's still, the implication is like small children and things like that. And then your Cancer, who rules your fourth house, is in your fifth house. So it's still about children. But fifth house is about having fun, and it's ruled by Leo. Now Leo in your sixth house is still fun and creativity and things like that. But now it's being connected with your sixth house, which is service, health, healing, small children again. So you definitely got small children on your chart. Small children. Co-workers, subordinates. Then when you get to your seventh house, relationship. Now Virgo's there. The vertex is there. But it's 21 degrees, which is Saturn energy, which is interesting. See, that's real interesting. That one's really interesting. Because the first thing I want to ask is that Saturn energy, the same energy there. See, because you got to really know how to read these charts. Because that could actually be that man's home. Because that's what the implications being given on this reading. Or it could be her bringing that Saturn into what would be her home. And she's 7. Now go back to her first house. See that 7 with Mercury, and see that Saturn. It's the same thing in her 7th house. And if you look at her 3rd house, because that's kind of like the connection. Even with the number 2, that's the high priestess bringing them together. And number 3 is Empress or Venus energy. And remember what I said about Venus when I first got started? That's the person that doesn't mind. Venus in the 12th house doesn't mind sleeping with some other man or sleeping with the boss or some other shit. Because it's like, that's why she's there in the 12th house. It's all about secrets. If they don't know, it don't matter. If they don't know, it won't hurt them and shit like that. And remember, Venus rules Taurus and Libra. And right now we're in the 7th house with Libra. And vertex could definitely mean that. Vertex is fate, destiny, breakups, makeups, significant meetings, soulmates, twin flames. So now in the 8th house is Libra. So once again, could mean relationships. It might mean some type of business agreement, something legal, some type of partnership. Open enemies, cemeteries. So now your 9th house is really out there. And there's your Juno at 2 degrees. So you might find yourself in a serious relationship with either Scorpio, a Sagittarius. Yeah, it's either going to be a Scorpio or Sagittarius. So again, you can always try to find out people's what their sign is. And if you can find out like the moon sign, sun sign, ascendant, true north node. So that's one thing we got pretty much. You will find yourself in some type of serious relationship with either a Scorpio or Sagittarius. And it's funny because Sagittarius is in your 10th house. Which is your career. So it might even be you might actually work with this person. And that Saturn appears to be some type of oversight. Whether it's oversight at your job or oversight at your church or some type of oversight. Um, and like I said, just give me a moment. Now in your 9th house, you keep seeing the number 27. And this is your 9th house. And 2 and 7 is 9. So that's the numerology. So that's what you call, that's called universal alchemy or universal chemistry. Because that's your 9th house. and they really put that 2727 there, and that usually means the person's a really good like the person's very diplomatic. Now, for some reason, but see, Jupiter and Sagittarius can also be your belief system. And they said it would shake. They said it would shake it. They said that Saturn return, your belief system might get shooken up. Because 29 degrees is definitely the shake up. Just give me a moment. We have to really look at that. Now, tarot card 17 is the star card, which is Aquarius energy. And tarot card 14 is the Temperance card, which is Sagittarius energy. So you have a lot of Sagittarius energy in the ninth house, which is ruled by Sagittarius. And that's who you will find yourself in a serious relationship with. But you seem to have some other undercover stuff going on with this. See, like I said, when it's Saturn energy, it could actually be Saturn, Capricorn, but it could just be like a person in a rule. Because the Saturn, like I said, that could even be that could be like a priest or a pastor or a manager. It's anybody that has that management or authoritative position. And if you notice, in because like I said, that emperor or that Aries or that number 4 is the emperor. So that's another masculine energy that's in authority. Now, if you look over there, you see the number 28 in the second house, and then you see the number 28 in the 12th house. And remember, the 12th house is all about secrets, and again, the 28 is like overdoing it. And most people, I mean, even coming up, like a lot of so-called church girls were like that, because their life is kind of restricted. So they'll take it where they can get it, and they also learn how to be very manipulative and very sneaky, because they have to get past all the restrictions and stuff like that. But like I said, the universe will send somebody like me to tell her like it is. Like you don't get past nothing. Like if somebody did something to me and I say I'm gonna do it to them, at the end of the day I'm gonna answer to God. It's not really gonna matter what I did to that person or whether I got away with it because God saw everything, so I'm still gonna have to pay for it. And like I said, most humans don't think like that. I don't know why humans don't think like that. Humans don't worry about it until it's too late, and that's why you got the Matthew chapter 7 moment where God says, "Okay, time for you to go to hell," and oh no, why not me? Yeah, you. And then they try to make every excuse in the book of why they shouldn't get sent. All right, so your money's here as well, and even your Jupiter is 14 degrees, but number 6. Now number 6 is the Lover's card, and it's also Venus's number. And but Lover's card can be about doubt. It doesn't have to be about doubt, but it seems like in this ninth house with the Sagittarius energy, this is where you really find your love. And also Libra in the 8th house is also part of your ninth house because Scorpio rules the 8th house. So let's do Scorpio in the ninth house. The ninth house is also about higher law, so that could be in reference to Christianity or whatever a person's religious belief system is. So they're saying a person with Scorpio in the ninth house may become a teacher, which we were saying they may become a teacher to other people. Because remember, this is about mysteries and all the supernatural stuff. Now, when you get your free natal report, astrology report, you really want to get to know your eighth house because your eighth house has a lot, especially about the supernatural and stuff. So they say you have a lot of power, though. And they say you have to be very careful because they say a lot of people that have this type of power that you have in your ninth house, they're going to use it to manipulate other people. So they're saying Scorpio in the ninth house really has got to be going for higher vibrations. Because if not, it's going to be lower vibrations. And that's like saying sin. Lower vibrations would equal sin. Higher vibrations mean you're helping other people to rise their vibrations. So they say Scorpio in the ninth house will have trouble trying to focus from the Christ consciousness of harmony and wisdom. So it kind of looks like the Saturnian Aries energy will kind of help her to be more aggressive. But then that whole Sagittarian energy is going to try to, because remember, this is about transformation. Her ninth house is about transformation because both Pluto and Scorpio transform. And Jupiter represents finance, but also your belief system. And that's all Sagittarius energy. So now let's do the anaretic degree, which is at 29. That means karma. That means something impactful is going to happen. All right, so I just want to look at this a little bit about the Scorpio one. Because we know it's going to have something to do with your relationship because Libra is in the 8th house, which is Scorpio. All right. So 29 degrees Scorpio could be something significant happening to a probate. But I just know it has something to do with Libra being in the 8th house. So it probably will have something to do with that. "29 degrees in the 9th house or Sagittarius. Again, changing belief systems, which we said would happen. And they were basically implying it may happen around Saturn retrograde. Because that's a trine. So that aspect is a trine. So you want to say like Saturn trine Scorpio. And that's how you know it's karmic, and that's how you also know Scorpio represents that past life. Or Saturn trine Pluto. All right, here we go. And it's funny because they say every 7 years, and that's exactly what I'm seeing at 7 on that chart. So they're saying this means completion. Saturn trine Pluto, completion. And as you see it again, it still has to do with so it's interesting. It might be the end of the one relationship and the start of another. And what that really means is it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like one to the other. Sometimes it just means you change. Because I know I had a female friend of mine who I was never really interested in. So she was always around, so it wasn't going to be a beginning because she was always there. But what did change was when me and somebody broke up or whatever, then me and her just happened to just start talking. And so then me and her started talking. So, but she was always there, so you can't really say that was a beginning because she was always there. But things changed. So that's what I'm seeing on your chart. And that's also the start of your Juno. That's when things get serious with what appears to be Sagittarius energy. and it's going to be more spiritual. See, the Aries and the Saturn, it seems like it's more career driven and more financial driven. And believe me, you can get that type of energy in the church, depending on who you're talking to as well. It could be somebody at a job or whatever, but it could also be somebody in the church. It all depends on who you're talking to. But it's a Saturnian Aries driven energy on finances. That's why you see Taurus there and stuff like that. And Vesta, I think Vesta's in the second house because, like I said, it could be spiritual, but it's still that money because the second house is money. And the trine also means harmony. So at this time, you'll start to be in the realistical world. You'll start to go to where you'll be more concerned with reality than all that other stuff. Because that's what I was trying to tell you. Like, a man is not going to be happy. If he's a grown-ass man, he's not going to be happy with no 20. Even if she's a woman, she's a 20-year-old woman, a young woman, but she's still a girl. At the end of the day, she's barely out of her teenage years. He's not. Most guys are not going to be happy with that. There might be some that are, but most will not be. So that's what that's about. Said events may bring you to a deeper appreciation of power. So they're saying that this time you'll be able to balance extremes, which is interesting because throughout your chart, you can see there was an imbalance. All right. And at this time, you're going to have a strong desire to make changes in your life. But now you're not. Now you're not acting impulsively anymore. That's pretty sweet. All right, let's continue. And that's also your life purpose. So the assumption is maybe in a past life you were to focus on the power, the money, uh, the man that can help you get it, and stuff like that. But something's going to happen in this life where you're going to start to see things like from a higher. Ninth house is higher, from a higher perspective. Hopefully, a higher vibration. Then there'll be a transformation as well. And again, your 10th house is basically Sagittarius, whatever that might be. But remember, Sagittarius can have anything. It could be traveling, it could be court, higher courts, philosophy, religion, and all that. But what I really think it is, I think it's actually that the person who will be like your twin. And then Sagittarius is the star card, which is Aquarius energy. So then when you go to the 11th house, ruled by Aquarius, there you have it. Capricorn's there. So the 11th house is friends, association groups, communities like YouTube and stuff like that. And there you have Capricorn, which means you'll be using this as your platform, maybe even make a career out of. So that's 11th house. Now, well, see, Neptune, remember, Neptune is a deceiver, but once again, it's Saturn. 21 degrees is the world card. See, when you see a setup like this one, this is a person who knows how to talk to people in, friends, association groups, whoever. But they know how to sell you that Neptune idealism. Now, Uranus at 23, now that gets a little shaky because 23 degrees can be that person that's very well spoken, has charisma, but then all of a sudden everything goes to hell. And in cases like this, that's what happens because this is still a karmic house because Capricorn's there. But Capricorn represents the code, the Saturnian way of doing things, policy, procedure, rules. But Neptune is the person that comes in and says, hey, listen, we don't need to do it that way. We don't need to be all uptight. We can do it this way. Blah, blah, and everybody's all with it. And then the 23 degrees of Uranus makes you think like this is the great thing to do. Yeah, why didn't we do this before? But then all of a sudden, all things go boom. Because on your chart it's definitely going to be a turning point. It's going to help you to see things differently. And if it hasn't already started, it's probably going to start from like age 29 to either 39 or 29 and 34. If it hasn't already started. Now in your 12th house, you definitely have a stellium. It's like 3 or more planets. So you have 4 more planets in the house. Okay. All right. So let's just look this over. This is a lot of information, but we'll try to look at it. I thought it was a lot of, it's actually a lot of comments. There's like about 80 comments. So I don't really want the comments. I just want all the information. So they say when it's status, obsessive energy. But that's why I say it again, you have to be very careful because Venus is there, all kind of stuff can come on. And see, like I said, this is not easy because some of the people that make the biggest mistakes is because they get called in. See, the 12th house says, "Hey, come on out." You got Aquarius in the 12th house, so that's like, "Come on out. We're gonna help the people. Come on out. We're gonna do this." So your heart is in the right place. You're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna help the people. I'm gonna really do it." And you go out, but then you get caught up on some bullshit. That's what I learned a long time ago. I ask questions like, "Why? Who? Who's gonna be with? Who's gonna be there? What's this about?" and stuff. Because people don't understand. It's nice when people want to do the right thing, but if you're going to end up doing the wrong thing, you got to really think about that. So they say whenever you have a stellium in a house, they say get out of that house, go to the opposite house. So the opposite house of 12th house where your stellium is, right across, I believe that is. Let's make sure. Yeah, pretty much probably the 6th house. So this is one of the reasons why you will see a lot of imbalance on your chart. So they say when a person has a 12th house stellium, this is a serve or suffer house. These people may have come from a past life monastery experience. In this present life, they need to get outside of themselves and involve themselves with service to others, or they can become quite neurotic. And coming from a past life situation of seclusion, which forced a life pattern of isolation, they might break this pattern now. They must break this pattern now. There is a need to get outside of one's self and work with others. It is easy to escape within rather than go out in the world. So your stellium is in Aquarius, and this is what she's about to talk about. She says one woman with a stellium in Aquarius had her finest hour when she dedicated many years of her life to taking care of a disabled child. When not involved in service, she retreated to being a neurotic recluse. It must be noted that 12th house people can never be out all of the time. They need to retreat, to be alone, and to be quiet. They cannot be on 24 hours a day. They find it easy to disappear, to be invisible, and tune out when around more aggressive or assertive types. I have observed 12th house students simply shut down when more assertive types speak up or interrupt. All right, so again, all right, so she's a new moon she's a new moon person too, because both her sun and moon are in the 12th house, so she's a new moon person. So new moon in the 12th house. Eruptions of the unconscious could bring both troubles and personal revelations to the surface right now. So you may want to be careful not to betray secrets or let the cat out of the bag prematurely. Don't say the first thing that comes to mind, or you may give away more than you intend. New deals are being struck behind the scenes with a strong sense of urgency, but they are not necessarily justified. So watch that you don't climb aboard the wrong bandwagon right now. Wait until things come out into the open to make decisions. Take sides. All right. Wait until things come out and open to make decisions. Because again, this is the 12th house of secrets and things. You got to be careful. So she said, wait till they come out and open because it may seem like it's an advantage in secrecy. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. So you might think it's love. You might think, oh, he's going to leave his wife, or, this is best and whatever. Because a lot of people say, well, this is my soulmate, or this is my twin soul. So it's okay. But it's still not, the married wife isn't going to think it's okay. The children aren't going to think it's okay. So she's saying go for opening covenants that are openly arrived at. In other words, don't do anything in secrets, or not, stuff like that. Now Mars in Aquarius usually fights social issues like injustice for women. Mars in Aquarius will fight against that. Moon in Aquarius just wants to basically help the people. So then that Aquarius energy, is where you see any 17s out. So that's where your medium Coeli. So this will probably be somebody you work with as well. So that Aquarius energy is going to be connected to the Sagittarius energy too. So wherever you see 14 or 17 on your chart, that's this person. And it's probably the same person. Now 26, ironically, is a voice of God. The word of God, whether it's Bible scripture or somebody, or you might have a friend that recites scripture, but that's what it is. And it's right there with Venus and Aquarius. So I believe that Aquarius and that Sagittarius energy is probably the same person. And I believe you'll go through the other relationship first. But that will be taken out at some point and it'll make the way for who's probably your twin flame. Now you also have part of fortune and good fortune in your 12th house as well at 28 degrees. All right, so now let's go. So Venus is in your 12th house, so that's going to be some type of Venus Pisces connection or some type of piece Venus Aquarius connection. All right. Now when we get to your 7th house, You got Virgo there, and that's the home. It could actually be Virgo, the zodiac sign, but it could also mean the home. And this is your vertex, which is karmic at 21 degrees, and that's Saturn again. And I really believe that's a literal Saturn energy that you see in your first house. So I believe that's there. And you also got the wounded healer. So that usually means something hurt you that hasn't healed. Then you have Libra in your 8th house, and that goes with Scorpio. Scorpio rules the 8th house. And then when you get to 9th house, there's Juno with Scorpio. So that Scorpio and that Juno, 8th house, 9th house are connected. But then you got Jupiter there. See, the 9th house is all about Sagittarius energy. And then the people who wrote your natal chart, they made sure they put 9 in your house. They put 27 in your house. That's 9. So you have a whole lot of 9 energy in your house, your 9th house. And number 9 can also mean completion as well. All right. So that's your true north node. So it's stuff like that. That's how you know you're dealing with like twin flame stuff and soulmate stuff. Because it is. And I think when you get to your 9th house at this time, that's when you're going to have a different outlook. I think before that, it's going to be one that's kind of aggressive, especially when it comes to making finances. But when you get to your 9th house, after that 29-degree anaretic critical degree, you won't see things as much as by, you won't see, you'll be saying almost like bye to that type of mentality. And then you see your career is Sagittarius, which will be in your number 15. Sagittarius is going to be the energy in your 9th house, but it's also in your 10th. And then when you get to the 11th house, once again, you're dealing with karma a little bit, but you will be using people in the 11th house to pitch business deals to. All right. So that's pretty much it. And that Aquarius energy, which I said is also going to be kind of like Sagittarius as well. You see that's right there with your moon and your sun. Because again, whenever you're dealing with the moon and the sun, that's like twin flame stuff as well. So that should pretty much answer your questions. So remember to ask for the most recent services offered and price list. You can also look at the channel and There's usually a video that's trying to show you things that are offered, but the price list is more conclusive. So you can always look at the channel. You can always request the more recent price list. Also, if you haven't had your natal chart updated, update it. If you haven't gotten your natal chart done, get it done. Things are going to begin to accelerate. The more we get to the end of 2020, things are going to begin to accelerate. And we're getting into more and more of a prophetic 2020, more and more of a prophetic year. So you really want to make sure you're not just out here with bubblegum astrology, but you're really realizing that the stars are speaking, and we better be listening. And if you remember, like the ancient societies, they definitely knew that the stars were definitely much more than what we're being told that they are. The stars, the planets, and everything. So we want to make sure we're tapped into the universe, so that we're not misled. All right, this is Get. God bless.